Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. I hope you've had a good 4th weekend. Here we are in the middle of the week afterwards, and perhaps you've had a chance to recover. And perhaps you realize that time is just flying by. Not only are we in the second half of the year, but we're in the middle of summer, or pretty close to it. And pretty soon it won't be summer anymore. See, life is always changing. The question is whether it's changing for the better or for the worse, but it's always changing. And God has a promise about that. I find it here in verse 23 of Hebrews chapter 10. Verses 23 through 25. Here's what the writer to the Hebrews says. Let us hold tightly, without wavering, to the hope we affirm. For God can be trusted to keep his promise. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. Well, this passage has 2 parts to it. The first part, it says, let us hold tightly. Have you ever held tightly to something? My image here is of a little kid holding their teddy bear or something other like that. And they grab it, they pull it close to their chest, and they hang on to it, and that gives them comfort. Take it away, and that's a whole different ballgame. So the phrase here, let us hold tightly, without wavering, without any other thoughts, without wavering to the hope we affirm. Now, as a Christian, the hope I affirm is very different than someone who isn't a Christian. I understand that. And I understand that people who aren't Christians, somewhat or generally or mainly, I don't know what the right word is, think their hope is fine. Maybe they hope in themselves. A lot of people do. They think they can make it. And a few of them do. Most don't, but a lot of people think it. Or they hope in their retirement funds, or their nest egg that they've built up if they're older, or in their education that's going to guarantee them something. And, there are a lot of things in life to hope for. And a lot of those things, well, it's about as much due to luck as it is anything else. And I don't really believe in luck per se. It says here, let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm. For God can be trusted to keep his promise. You see, we can't trust in things. They deteriorate. Recently there was a collapse of a condo in Florida. And you've probably heard some of that and read some of it. The people who lived there were trusting that their condo was safe. Now, we don't know at this time what caused that collapse. But what we do know is an awful lot of people died because that trust really wasn't justified. I don't know about you, but one thing I take from that is I don't want to live in a condo on the 12th floor. But I know some people do. But the point is, are we trusting in something that absolutely guaranteed will last? And just because it's lasted for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years is nothing to say that it will last for a whole lot longer. Except for God. You can trust in His promises. To love you, to care about you, to restore you, whatever your situation, however awful it is, however great it is. God can build in you something you've never imagined for the good. And it says here now, because we know there's a God, and here's the second part of this session, it says, let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect the meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another. You see, God doesn't want you and me to live a solitary life. He didn't make us so we can enjoy the goodness of His graces. He made us so we could be a spokesman for Him. And every one of us need encouraging. We all get down from time to time. That's human. I do. And those times, we need God to send us someone with flesh on their bones that we can see, or we can hear, or we can touch. And if we try to be by ourselves, it's not going to work out. You see, God has a plan here, and it's laid out pretty carefully. It says to trust His promise, hang on to it tightly, encourage others to do acts of love and kindness, and join together to minister to one another and encourage one another. Now, if we do those things, having an abundant life is a natural consequence. Even if the abundance life includes pain, such as diseases or family members doing such and such, abundant life is living above all of that stuff. And I suggest that we can do that. But we can't do that if we don't trust Him, if we don't hang on tightly to Him, if we don't encourage others, and we don't get around others who are similar in their thoughts. Without those pieces, we are unlikely to live the life that God wants us to live. Now, I know that sounds kind of demanding, but why wouldn't it be? Every good thing takes work. If it didn't, everybody could do it. You know, I taught some fellows recently how to hang sheetrock. After about 6 pieces, I said, now guys, you know everything there is to know about hanging sheetrock. All you need is about 1,000 hours of experience. See, it takes work, even if you know the basics. Walking with God, living a life of fullness and joy, takes work, even if you know the basics. So what do you got to do? You got to trust God. You got to hang on to that trust tightly. You got to motivate other people in similar ways, and you got to worship or fellowship or get together with like-minded folks to encourage them, and they encourage you. Simple formula, just a little complicated sometimes. So thanks for listening to me. I hope you've had a great holiday and going to have a great rest of the week. I hope that if you have a need, you'll call us, let us know. We'll do everything we can, as fast as we can, to help meet your need. So until we meet again, God bless you. I'll talk to you again.